Mr. Chancellor, Chair of the Board of Governors, Madam President, graduates, and honored guests, it is an honor and a privilege to introduce Daniel Poliquin to this convocation. As we gather today to celebrate the graduating class of 2017's academic achievements, looking to Daniel Poliquin's lifelong accomplishments could hardly be more fitting. A renowned Canadian literary figure, Daniel Poliquin's path at Carleton preceded our graduates not once but twice, with the first Master of Arts degree in German literature granted in 1978, followed by a second Master of Arts degree in comparative literature, this time in 1982. Daniel Poliquin went on to complete his doctoral training in lettres québécoises a few years later at a not-so-distant university. Other than being an alumnus twice over, what is truly striking is how Daniel Poliquin wove this early scholarly commitment to literature into a life ceaselessly engaged with literary creation and intellectual contributions. Across decades, from 1982, when his first novel was published, to his latest publication in 2017, Daniel Poliquin penned in French an enduring body of work spanning novels, short stories, and non-fiction titles. From his famed L'Homme de Paille, translated in English as The Straw Man, to his inquisitive essay on Quebec nationalism, In the Name of the Father, Daniel Poliquin, the writer, made a literary contribution celebrated afar and locally, whether for a single book or for the entirety of his works. While the reasons are many, the unique literary voice Daniel Poliquin brings to French-speaking lives and communities across Canada, but specifically in Ontario, clearly stands out. Innovation, most certainly a core value of what we do across faculties at Carleton, equally applies to the realm of the arts. Writing with a new voice about places, lives, and issues too seldom represented, effaced or even self-effaced in our cultural repertoire, is precisely what pulses at the core of Daniel Poliquin's work as a novelist and short story writer. Ottawa, Sudbury, Sioux Junction, lives, dreams, and angst in French outside of Quebec are what populates many of his books. As such, negotiating within the literatures of the world an imaginary space for the complex cultural expression of Franco-Ontarian realities remains a powerful artistic innovation, a rare accomplishment worthy of the attention and the many honors Daniel Poliquin has received throughout his career, from the Trillium Book Award in Ontario to the Pléiade Order granted by the Organisation Internationale de la Francophonie. I should stress, however, that there is more than one career to the alumnus and Canadian writer we are celebrating and honoring at this convocation. Novelist and essayist, Daniel Poliquin is also equally a parliamentary interpreter and an award-winning literary translator. And translation is a career, a profession Daniel Poliquin dedicated himself to throughout his early university training, but his career as well as an author, a writer. There might be wisdom for parents in the room in knowing that he can both be a leading literary figure and a career civil servant. Literature cannot achieve much without points of contact, mutual influence, and opportunities for a renewed and expanded readership. The tasks and contributions of translators are as understated as they are vital in this regard, particularly in an increasingly entangled world. Bringing to French readers worldwide the works of Mordecai Richler, W. Mitchell, Jack Kerouac, among other Canadian writers translated by Daniel Poliquin, is an accomplishment worthy in and of itself of the honors we will today be bestowing. Mr. Chancellor, in recognition of his brilliant work as novelist, short story writer, translator, interpreter, and thought leader through political essays and nonfiction works, I request that you confer the degree of Doctor of Literature honoris causa upon Daniel Poliquin.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Governors and upon recommendation by the University Senate, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Literature honoris causa. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, Chair of the Board, Madam President, graduates, and honored guests. I grew up right here in Ottawa, in Sandy Hill, a French-Canadian enclave, where I only had a faint idea about the existence of Carleton University. Coming here to further my studies had the whiff of transgression. I had just finished my past BA in German at Ottawa U, and since Carleton then offered an honors as well as a master's program in my chosen field, it made sense for me to board the number 7 bus for the first time in my life and plunge into exile. My decision was not exactly greeted with unanimous glee. What, you going to Carleton, you nuts? Or then I'd hear, come to think of it, it's not a bad move. You'll just breeze through it. After all, Carleton is a second-rate university, and you'll have fun. I recall making friends with 2 other Ottawa U defectors when I got here, one in political science and the other one in psychology. They had been told the same thing about Carleton. It'll be a cakewalk. Now I attended my first classes, met my professors and classmates, and I got to work. Around Thanksgiving, the trio of turncoats met again in the cafeteria. We all had baggy eyes from lack of sleep. We were pale, sweaty, and nervous from too much coffee drinking and cigarette smoking. No wonder we were swamped with work. There were strict deadlines for papers, good writing was expected, midterms were coming, no goofing off, no improvisation, and no teachers taking any guff from us. Not that Carleton U was some sort of scholarly boot camp. It was just a good school with clear and enforced standards, period. One of us said, remember what they said about a certain second-rate university? Geez, I haven't had a beer in a month. And the other answered, man, the truth is, we're second-rate. Things did not get any better. There was a lot of catch-up reading to do, many sleepless nights, writing mediocre essays, and skipping classes was frowned upon. When April came, time for me to get my honors BA with average but hard-earned marks, I was so miserable, I decided to stay. So I did a master's in German and later on a part-time basis a second master's in comparative literature, this time with distinction. With the rigorous training I had acquired here, when I went elsewhere to do my doctorate, boy, that was the real walk in the park. Not that the other university was second-rate, it was just that I was Carleton trained, and by then I had finally understood what makes a fine university. You might find this odd, but the first ingredient is a robust administration that is student-centered. I'm not talking about the legendary spoon-fed entitled kids. No, I'm talking about a university that focuses on providing a solid, all-round bachelor's degree that will serve as a springboard for further academic endeavors or professional accomplishment. I'm talking about a university that has a democratic and humanistic approach to dealing with students and personnel. People first. And I say this because I have seen too many other universities that shall remain nameless, where the student was told to feel honored to be there. He or she knocking on a door was asked in an annoyed tone, what do you want? Can't you see we're busy in here? Here at Carleton, it was more like, good day, Daniel. Come on in, how can we help? I felt welcomed and supported all the way, never spoiled. A well-managed university will also attract the best professors, and I have had my share of them, believe me. Dr. Oppenheimer had translated Goethe into English. Dr. Lorette had 3 PhDs. Dr. Fass, Dr. Sarkani, and Dr. Yuta Gohin were all luminaries in their own fields. Some were so good, they were poached by other universities. The training they provided me with was demanding but rewarding. Thanks to the mentors I found here, I decided on a career in literature. Almost all of them would read my term papers, shake their heads and say, you know, you should write fiction. I recall not being too pleased hearing that back then. After all, I dreamed of becoming a first-class scholar like them. Yes, it's a noble calling, they would insist, but you are a writer. Their believing in me made me believe in myself. By the time I left Carleton, I had published my first novel. And a good university has an outlook on the world that is generous and diverse. All my professors encouraged me to write my essays in French when it dawned on them that my command of my second and third languages was hampering my boldness, my fantaisie. Go ahead, Daniel, we'll read you in French. I was floored. I had been told this place was as Anglo as Yorkshire pudding and intolerant to boot. That wasn't true. It was in fact the opposite. Why? Simply because Carleton was already then open to all minorities, except that nobody felt like a minority. That is the true calling of a good university. The word says it all. It is a universe, which is even better than diverse. Now you'll ask me, why all the bad-mouthing, the belittling you heard prior to your coming here? Well, I imagine that some people compensate for their insecurity by diminishing others. That's how racism and other ills get to flourish even in the best societies. And as Chateaubriand said, a lie often repeated becomes the truth. And when lies morph easily into faked facts, the damage begins. Let me quote Marcel Proust here. Facts do not penetrate the world that is inhabited by our beliefs. Beliefs will sometimes trump facts, and any demagogue willing to exploit that human, all too human weakness in us has a promising career ahead of him. And the task of the university is precisely to help students gain such intellectual structures that they will be able to decode false beliefs, debunk phony prophets, and reestablish the primacy of facts tempered by generosity and nuances. Carleton did that to me. And that's the main reason why I've been singing Carleton's praise privately ever since. Today, Madam President, you have given me the opportunity to do so publicly. And for that, I just want to say thank you very much.